Dear viewers, many thank you for joining us. You are watching OBN Horn of Africa. This is Future Africa program, our weekly edition. In this edition, we're going to discuss the GERD politics and the U.S. intervention in the Africa in general and Ethiopia in particular. I joined by a former diplomat and press writer of Sudan, Mekki Elmograbi. Good to join me, Mr.
Thank you, and greetings to all Ethiopian people and OBN Oromia.
All right, let me begin with the first question. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam is a bone of contention among Sudan, Egypt, and Ethiopia. The stand of Sudan was here and there. And as a diplomat, you know GERD politics and the Nile politics very well. And as a citizen of Sudan, what was your stand up until the second filling of the GERD undergone last time?
Okay, first of all, our stand as African from the GERD, which is Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, is that GERD is an African development battle. Africans need GERD because Africa needs development, and the development cannot be achieved easily in this world these days. You need to fight for development because the world is divided, and the big powers, they want to deprive African nations from their very right to develop their countries and to have their energy and to have their resources used for the sake of their countries. Even in the history, even for Egypt itself, when we go back to the Suez Canal crisis, Egypt has been faced by France and UK and Israel, and they want to deprive Egypt from their canal, but Egypt fought, supported by Arab and also supported by Sudan, and because Sudan at that time was independent. This was 1956. And without war, and without the crisis, and without the hardship that Egypt faced, they couldn't liberate their canal. So it is a lesson, and it is repeated in many cases, even for Sudan. Getting the oil of Sudan and exporting the oil, it was a battle. Sudan was forced not to deal with China, and the foreign relation of Sudan at that time during the previous regime was under attack and embargo and all kind of pressures to stop the development in Sudan. And even after that, they continue their aggression against Sudan till now. Even the current government is so cooperative with Western countries, but still Sudan now under the aggression, and still the transaction, the bank transaction between Sudan and US and European countries is not available now, even after Sudan out of the terror list and out of the sanctions. So it is a battle. GERD is a battle, is an African battle of development. GERD is a part of PIDA, which is Program of Infrastructure and Development in Africa. It is part of the national development progress of Ethiopia. We learned when we were in PIDA network under the African Union, we learned that all hydropower plants in Africa is under this program and should be protected by the African Union. For me, definitely, I'm not happy for the negative development on the Sudanese relations. I wrote several articles on that. My latest article on the Brown Land under the title, the Brown Land newspaper weekly, Sudanese newspaper that the devil of the war is peeping behind the door between Ethiopia and Sudan. And I put my suggestion for the two countries to come over this problem and to solve it and to go ahead. So I think the Western influence now is heavily manipulated the decision in African countries, and they are using the fragile situation in Sudan to tighten their grip on how decision made in Sudan or any other African countries. For this very reason, I think Africa should support GERD. By myself, I support GERD. And I think Sudan one day will learn that GERD is for the interest of Ethiopian people, even interest of Sudan. The official stand, actually, technically, they are expressing that they are supporting GERD. But the problem comes when there is a dispute between Ethiopia and Egypt, and then the politics change the technical position. I don't want to go deep in the conflict, but I want to say something about solving problems between Sudan and Ethiopia. I suggest that Sudan and Ethiopia, they missed an opportunity to have integrated economy. In the 1990s and from 2000 up to 2010, there was an opportunity because the two governments were close together. The government in Addis Ababa and the government in Khartoum. But unfortunately, both governments at that time, they focused on security and political cooperation, not for economic cooperation. So they were close together, but they were close together on political and security issues. And till the day that I'm speaking now in 2021, there is no economic integration between Sudan and Ethiopia. When you go to Ethiopia, we were called brothers and sisters, and Ethiopians, they are welcomed in Sudan, and Sudanese people, they are calling them brothers and sisters. But when it comes to business, Sudanese are foreigners in Ethiopia. When it comes to business and labor and work permit and jobs opportunities, Ethiopians are foreigners in Sudan. So the economic integration between Sudan and Ethiopia is zero. And this is how, when you base your relation on historical relation and historical and cultural similarities, that was not enough. Sudan and Ethiopia need economic integration to come together. Till now, I think Sudan and Ethiopia should move on their disputes, and they should discuss how they can come together.
Who used to lead Sudan for about 3 decades, Omar Hassan al-Bashir, was ousted by a popular uprising in Sudan, and after that, a military wing and a civilian leadership jointly are leading the country Sudan, and the wing which is headed by military, or the military as a head by Al-Burhan is pro-Egypt when it comes to the GERD politics. That's why the stand of Sudan on the GERD is oscillating here and there. There is such kind of claim by different stakes in Ethiopia and in Africa and in the world as well. What is your notion as a diplomat who knows Sudanese politics very well and African politics very well as well?
I appreciate your point of view. Yes, Sudan witnessed a revolution started from December 2018 and finalized by the army and the civilians come together, and the military took the power in April 2019. And then Ethiopia itself involved positively in bringing the military, the civilians together. And the government is established on the constitutional documents that is facilitated and mediated by the African Union and by the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. And it was good African mediation, and the Ethiopian mediator Mahmoud Darir came to Sudan, and they participated in Sudan in launching the constitutional document that ruling Sudan, giving the role to military on some issues and giving the role to civilians on some issues. So when we go to details, when Sudan miss the way of economic integration, this is open the doors of international intervention, regional intervention, neighbor influence, Egypt influence, all this happening to Sudan or happening to African countries because the focus is not economy. And this brings me back again to my point. So regarding this point, I think the best recipe is not just to see whom to blame and put the blame on the military side or on the civilian side. I think we as African, when we miss the way of economic integration with each other, this will open the door for international influence or other sides influence on our politics.
Okay, let me substantiate my question. And the Sudanese people should be very grateful to Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed because he was the one who accorded the peace agreement between the military wing and the civilian, which is headed by Abdel Hamdok. By that time, even the Prime Minister assigned a special envoy to Sudan, who was by that time Ambassador Mohammed Drill. And along with the African Union, what the leadership of Abiy Ahmed did for Sudan was immense, right? How Sudanese people forget all this effort in bringing Sudan into peace and the regional, and bringing the region into peace and bringing the region solidarity that way. And one way or another, again, the historical relationship between Sudan and Ethiopia is again a very worth mentioning historical attachment. It's the relation, the cultural wise, it's intertwined, isn't it? So why Sudanese failed to rethink and give acknowledgement for the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, and why they need to resist the greatest development here by standing along with the threat of Ethiopia, Egypt, and United States of America?
Sudanese didn't forget good Ethiopian efforts. Sudanese people and Ethiopian people are still together. Some political differences should not be dragged down to the nation and the people. So asking question about Sudanese people regarding the political stand of government is not the best approach to deal with this conflict that happening now and developing now. We need to bring the conflict back, not to push it further and to deepen the conflict down to the people. Also, I don't think Ethiopian people, they forget that Sudan is always helping Ethiopian people, opening the door for refugees and people that they came out from wars in Ethiopia during the Derg regime, during the crisis, even now during this is bad war. Still, Sudan is open for Ethiopian. When the people of Ethiopia made their action against the Derg regime, actually Sudan was backing Ethiopian fronts to come to Addis Ababa, being from Tigray, from Amhara, being from all parts of Ethiopia. All of them, they were in Sudan, and they came to Ethiopia and made the government in Addis Ababa, and also even Eritrea. Now, most of the forces of Eritrean front fighting to liberate Eritrea at that time was coming from Sudan. So when we go to the historical relation to the people, it is better. Actually, the relation between people and people is the best issue in this problem. So it is better to keep this issue in this good level and to base on it. So my recipe is still that between Sudan and Ethiopia, there are 6 border markets. 6 border markets. And all these 6 borders markets are closed because of the war, and even there was no strong bilateral agreement organized for the 2 people from the 2 countries, for the 2 nations, to use this border safely for trade. So we missed a lot of things to do on economic integration, and I don't think that we can solve all political issues and then come back to economy. I think we should keep the political disputes as it is and to open chapters on the issue of economic integration, because already Ethiopian people are in Sudan now. They have their jobs here, big population. Also, we have Sudanese businessmen in Ethiopia. They are running factories, they are running companies, so that we have things we are already doing together. There is a political dispute on the upper level, and for me, it is not just a matter of optimism, but I'm pretty sure that this problem will be over one day between Sudan and Ethiopia, and we come again, and we should build the economic integration between Sudan and Ethiopia.
Okay, great. Allegedly, the Sudanese military, either, I don't really know, either the military wing or the civilian wing, whoever did it, but it's really offending. The military of Sudan occupied and captured the territories around the border of Sudan and Ethiopia. And these days, the Sudanese government is calling for the mediation between the ongoing clash between TPLF and the incumbent leadership, Abiy Ahmed. Is that possible to be a threat and to be a peace accorder?
Look here, if you read about the border disputes all around the world, you will have 200 cases of border dispute all around the world. You will find 4 border areas disputed between United States and Canada. But still, the economic integration between United States and Canada is the strongest and the idealistic among all examples all over the world. So having disputes on the border, having problems here and there on trade, on politics, on security issues, it is not the real reason for the dispute between Sudan and Ethiopia, and it is not an excuse for Sudanese and Ethiopian to stop discussing the integration and the good relation between each other. Having example that Kenya and Ethiopia, they witnessed disputes on water resources on Omo River, but they solved the problem, not completely, but the border market between Ethiopia and Kenya, three border markets, the biggest in Mwale, because this economic integration between the two countries, because the bilateral is very strong between the two countries, so the dispute minimized and came to a very small size that cannot be a problem between the two countries. So having disputes on some issues, that is will not stop.
Okay, let me pause you. Okay, another question. On the very first days, Egypt and Sudan preferred the United States of America and the World Bank over the African Union in mediating the controversies over the GERD, and brought the agenda to the United States and the World Bank again. After a tough confrontation between Sudan, Ethiopia, and Egypt, the UN Security Council has made the negotiation to be tabled by the African Union. Why Egypt, counted trust upon the United States than the African Union?
Look here, even the United Nations, their position on GERD is almost neutral, according to the latest Security Council of the United Nations. So they show that. But if you ask me about the real position of the United Nations, the Western countries, is that they are still behind the problem, and they are still pushing the campaign and pushing things against the unity of Ethiopia, the unity of Sudan. What is happening in Ethiopia now regarding the humanitarian crisis in the conflict area in northern Ethiopia, and the claims of United Nations to open humanitarian corridors and others, I can say that whenever and wherever there is a humanitarian crisis, there is a Western intervention, there is United States intervention direct to break the unity of African countries. If you just Google the international humanitarian NGOs and African conflicts, you will find a lot of articles written on that. They use the conflict to prolong. They use the humanitarian issues to prolong the conflict. So their approach to what is happening to Tigray is not for the sake of Tigray people. It's not the sake of Ethiopian people. They want to use the crisis to break the unity of Ethiopia. United Nations agencies and the West is behind them, and the spearhead of all these campaign is the United States of America itself, and it is always behind all those players. The same happened for Sudan in Darfur crisis. It started with maximizing the humanitarian crisis. Yes, there was a real humanitarian crisis, but they maximized the humanitarian crisis, and they built a world or republic of refugees here and there, dominated directly by the United Nations and not by the country itself. And that happened in Darfur region and for Sudanese refugees in Chad and others. And then the issue of ICC came again and accused the Sudanese government and others. All these things not for the sake of Sudanese people, for the sake even for the refugees or the victims. All these things led to the change that happened in Sudan. Yes, it was revolution, but this is not the first revolution for Sudan, and it will not be like the last revolution of Sudan if Sudan didn't take the track of democratic transformation and represent the will of Sudanese people clearly and get out of the Western influence and other influence in the region.
Okay.
I do believe that a lot of things happening now, and all of them dangerous. And what I see from the conspiracy against Ethiopia now, this is what I have seen in all African countries. A media-led campaign supported by international humanitarian NGOs and covered by United Nations agencies and Western government, and especially the United States of America. Still, if we just look at this negative side of the problem, still we can do something on the positive side on the issue. So that we need to give some time for us as African countries and African nations to think deeply about our problems and to establish and to create African solutions for African problems.
Okay, long-serving Sudanese former diplomat and press right, Mekki Elmograbi, thank you for your insight and scholarly. We really appreciate you on behalf of OBN Horn of Africa.
You are most welcome, and greeting to our friends and brothers Windham Moch in Ethiopia.
Okay, thank you very much. Dear viewers, once again, thank you for joining us. You have been watching Future Africa show here on OBN Horn of Africa. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye. See you next time with another edition.